Hey, Mike, what did the Kool-Aid Man do when he came through the wall?
He broke out of the
He broke
wall.
out! Clear skies or fantasy thunder? We're talking about breakouts this week. Welcome. You're watching the Fantasy Forecast with Greinberg and Biggs. He's Greinberg. I'm Biggs. You're watching us on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, and we're here to talk some fantasy football with you. We've got some candidates this year who have kind of they've flown under the radar, or they've got a bad rap, or whatever. But we think that this is the year that they actually put something together and bring value to you in your fantasy season. So we're gonna talk about that. But other than that, Mike, how you been? You got a
Great.
big game
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by the time this airs, my Winnipeg Jets are, back in the series a bit, but their backs against the wall. But, here on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, we always talk about not just football. There's other things we could talk about too. But yeah, my Jets are in deep. They were the number one team headed into the playoffs, and now they are got their backs against the wall against the Dallas Stars, who are playing great hockey right now.
And I do have to tell you that as a witness to championships, because I've seen my teams win a couple rings, most notably and most recently the San Francisco Giants about 10 years ago. That game the other night, that game 7 that the Winnipeg Jets played down by 2 goals with a couple minutes left, scoring to make it 3-2, and then scoring with 3 seconds left on the clock to go to overtime, and then getting the golden goal in overtime. That, no matter what happens the rest of the playoffs, that was as good as winning a Stanley Cup.
It was for us too as a fan base. I mean, that's as big as an emotional roller coaster you can kind of be through, from thinking that your team is out and then get a little glimmer of hope and then this insane thing that happened. I mean, that's the beauty about sports and why we love it so much. And yeah, let's talk about our breakouts, because Biggs,
Yeah.
we've got a couple big ones coming here. And what's your number 3 breakout headed into this year? Your guys are a little bit more under the radar, a little lesser known than my guys. So I want to, I think our viewers are really going to get some good range here from our show.
Well, my first one is pretty well known, but not in a good way. He's kind of maligned in the fantasy space. People talked a lot of crap about him when he was a rookie. And he did kind of put some stuff together last season in a brand new offense under the tutelage of Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. And Quentin Johnston kind of had a mini breakout already last year. He had a 700 something yards. He went from 2 touchdowns to 8 touchdowns. I think he's in a prime position right now with his relationship with Justin Herbert to break the 1,000-yard barrier this year. I can see him on a path to 10 to 12 touchdowns, 1,200 to 1,400 yards. He does have some competition in Lab McConkey, and the Chargers did go out and draft Trey Harris. But I think Trey Harris is going to take some time to come along, given his route tree at Ole Miss, and he's going to be more of a sacrificial X receiver down the field, running wind sprints, similar to what Quentin Johnston did in his rookie year, although that was a different coach. But I think Quentin Johnston opened the eyes of the Los Angeles Chargers last year and is going to earn a much bigger share in that offense, which should be improved from last year. So I see Quentin Johnston jumping into the top 36, top 24 as a wide receiver finish in 2025.
Yeah, it's an interesting take because, I know how high you were on Trey Harris, so that kind of surprises me. And I wanted to hear your take on it because you were really, I mean, Trey Harris was your number 1 wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken, headed into
Yep.
the draft, and they have a very similar, not similar profile, but they could be viewed as such, being big bodied, X type receiver, guys that can go and get these deep balls, contested catch style stuff. So I think maybe the 3 years of experience Johnston has and that first round draft capital as well is always something that we got to consider. So if there is a year for him to come out and break out, this would be it. And obviously, with a good finish to last year, you're onto something here, I think, Biggs.
Yeah, there's no way that I'm saying that Quentin Johnston is better than Trey Harris. I just think he's going to have a bigger opportunity this year than Harris. Harris will have to earn it over the next couple of years.
There you go. Okay, well, I got a guy that is in his second year, headed into this year in 2025, and I think the room that he's headed into and still in is got some promise, second year wideout, Ricky Pearsall. He's in a good position. Brandon Ayuk, we know he's still there long term, but he's recovering from a torn ACL, MCL, and meniscus. And Debo Samuel is now out of the picture. That clears the path here for Ricky Pearsall. And I know he's a former number one round pick here. He's on a heater too, bouncing back from an off-field injury last year. He had a really good end to 2024, 14 receptions, 210 yards, two touchdowns in his two final games of 2024. Over 80% of his production last year came in those two games, and it shows the signs of what's to come, I think. 141 yards receiving in just week 18. That's a massive performance. 18 total targets between those two games. He had four fantasy usable games in just 10 appearances, which is not great, but we got to remember he came off a gunshot wound coming into last year when a crowded wide receiver room. It kind of opens it up now. And the path is there, I think, for Ricky Pearsall to have some relevance. He's going to fight for targets with Juwan Jennings, and I think that's going to be a really good situation to be in. And if there's anything that's going to be there for you is a Kyle Shanahan offense and a playmaker like Ricky Pearsall could potentially be. So they used that capital on him last year. I think he's going to, step into a good role this year, maybe wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside.
Yeah, there are a couple candidates in that San Francisco offense. They should see a pretty good bounce back. We saw from the schedule release that they have the easiest, potentially the easiest schedule in 2025 in the NFL, and that just means better things for all parties involved. Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, even Brandon Ayuk if he stays. One of the undersung aspects of football rostering is what happens on June 1st. That's a day of cuts. A lot of contracts hinge on whether a player is on the team on June 1st. So if the 49ers are going to move on for Brandon Ayuk, which would be a huge boom for Ricky Pearsall, that should happen in the next couple weeks. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that one.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift over to a running back here, Biggs, a guy that, last year was touted headed into the draft with an all kind of three down kind of skill set, a good pass catcher out of the backfield. And he landed in a backfield that was, right away going to crush his fantasy dreams. But you got a little bit of optimism this year about your guy. So tell us a little bit more about him.
So this is a guy that I had a really, really big draft grade on in 2024. Based on his combine results and everything, I comped him to Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's Will Shipley out of the University of Clemson. He's a second-year running back. He's in the Philadelphia Eagles offense. He's behind Saquon Barkley, but the spellback last year for the Eagles was Kenneth Gainwell, and the Eagles decided that they weren't going to retain Gainwell, which moves Shipley up into the number 2 spot. Now, he is behind Saquon Barkley, who has had a couple of injuries in his career. He is on a little bit longer in the tooth than he was last year. A lot of his fantasy production last year, I want to say 14% of his fantasy points came on 4 plays that he broke for 60 plus yards and a touchdown. So Saquon still has that big playability, but there might be an idea in Philly of kind of like not putting as much tread on Saquon's tires as they need to, which means an increased role for Will Shipley. Now, with Will Shipley's athletic profile, the explosiveness can be there. And if you want somebody who's going to like come into a game, have limited touches, 8 to 12, 15 touches in a game, and maximize his ability to score fantasy points in that role, putting together 40-yard runs, 40-yard catches, lots of touchdowns, etc. I think Will Shipley is in a prime position coming into his second year in Philly, who is a noted high-scoring Super Bowl winning team. They're going to have a lot of wins, and I think Will Shipley is going to be a big part of that. And so he is going to come off all of my taxi squads at some point this year.
And then he's going to be in a potential breakout situation. Yeah. And, when we talk about breakout, we're not talking about like a all-star number 1 overall, season for these running backs. We're talking about a guy that can maybe get into some playing time, earn some yards, like Biggs mentioned, 8 to 12 touches a game would be the prime time. And then you never know what could happen with an injury. Then he just gets catapulted into a lineup here and become a starter. And, maybe gain some trade value out of it as well. So always looking at where these assets will lie. And where else is got a lot of assets is on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. And we're going to hear from our sponsor right now.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Everybody go do that. I hear that there's a rumor that there's going to be a product drop from Fantasy Sports Advice Network pretty soon. What do you know about that?
Well, I'm waiting for the publisher to finally finalize the last finishing touches on our prestigious rookie guide.
Rookie guide? You don't say.
Yeah, I do say. And it's been a great collaborative effort from a lot of us here at the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. And as soon as it's ready, we will let you all know. And it's going to be coming out hopefully within the next week, if not sooner. But waiting for that publisher to get it in the books here, because we are actually publishing it in online, and you'll be able to find it there, but also in our website as well. So on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. So let's get back into the action here. And one of my next breakouts is a guy that, a couple of years ago was he was the first draft pick from Sean Payton, and he ended up moving up to grab this guy. And I'm talking about Marvin Mims, who I think in 2025 has got the tools and everything kind of lining up for him to have that breakout that we're talking about. And there's a reason behind that. He had a quiet start to his career, but late last season, a little bit was stirring up here, and I think that breakout is going to happen. He showed explosive upside that made him why, Sean Payton's very first pick for the Broncos. He's a second-round selection, and over the past 2 games in the last 2 weeks of the year, he had 53 PPR points. It flashed his 2 monster games, 19-plus PPR points in 3 of his last 5 games. And, he's showing that connection with Bo Nix, and currently, being drafted outside of the top 50 wide receivers as a consensus ranking on Fantasy Pros. And I think that he's got the opportunity to come in and be, the maybe number 2 or 3 target in that offense outside of, Evan Ingram and Cortland Sutton. I think that's going to be good. And obviously with the running back capital that they invested in RJ Harvey, I think he's going to be in there. But can't discount this Marvin Mims, and I'm ready to see him become more of a post-heist sleeper and becoming now a breakout in his year 3 here. And I think it's going to start paying off for fantasy managers right away.
Yeah, I do too. I liked Marvin Mims right out of the gate. He had a couple of huge games to start his career and then just kind of disappeared. And so one of the things that I didn't like about his profile is the fact that the way Sean Payton used him was very close to the line of scrimmage, even though his early success all came down the field. And that was kind of disheartening. But, sometimes it takes people a little bit to learn the game. And when you got a guy coming into his 3rd year like Marvin Mims is doing, there could be some huge games. Especially, it's kind of like when you're scouting a baseball pitcher. When they throw 96, but they usually throw about 92, you can get them back to that. So if somebody comes in and has a 29-point game or a 25-point game, that's a possibility that could happen down the road. Once they've done it, they can do it again.
And the other thing here too, there, Biggs, is that it took some time for these rookie quarterbacks to develop as well. Sean Payton wasn't going to let him, the wheels fall off of Bo Nix. So they were, designing a lot of these shorter screen, dump off passing plays to start the year. And then they started opening things up a little bit more downfield, where, like you mentioned, is that kind of where Marvin Mims makes his bread and butter on those big explosive plays. So I think maybe that relationship is going to grow and flourish even more so. So yeah, I got some optimism here, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what your number 1 spotlight guy is.
Number one.
Let's hear it.
My number one is a very small person. He's 5'9", 162 pounds, and that's Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Calvin Austin. Now, Calvin Austin is coming into his fourth year. He didn't get a whole lot of play in his first year, but in his third year, he did kind of start stringing some stuff together. He had a 19-point game against the Chargers on 5 targets. He had a 20-point game against the Giants on 4 targets. He had a total of 6 or 6 double-digit fantasy finishes. Not great. He finished as wide receiver 69. Nice. But what just happened in Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh just traded away George Pickens. They've got DK Metcalf in-house. Roman Wilson didn't really do a whole lot. They've got Pat Freiermuth, and they got a big, huge question mark at quarterback. If there's anybody who could take advantage of a time to shine, it could be Calvin Austin. He's a punt returner. He can be used deep. We know that he's got wheels, very, very fast. So if they have a target taking the top off the defense for somebody with a big arm, like, say, Aaron Rodgers, Calvin Austin could see a big, huge jump in his production in 2025. And for that, he's my number one breakout candidate.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of optimism there in that Steelers room here. We'll see what happens. I like the optimism here. Roman Wilson as well could have an opportunity, but Calvin Austin's got that experience. He's a proven guy that knows the system already really well, and he hasn't been shown to be injured as well. So this could be his breakout year now that George Pickens is out of the picture here. Obviously Metcalf is there, but this is a really good optimism play here. And we're just looking out for the next breakout. And the next breakout for mine is coming our way. Well, for me, I mean, this is more of a chalk play here, but I'm talking about Caleb Williams, and I think that he did not have the most stellar rookie season. It wasn't horrible by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought it was, considering, he's a rookie. But I think he's primed for a good upgrade this year. They upgraded his supporting cast, bringing in 3 new offensive linemen. They have returning weapons, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, that dynamic 1-2 punch, and now they got 2 new explosive targets, rookie additions, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. They bring more versatility and big play potential to that passing attack. The Bears' run game isn't nothing to scoff at either. I mean, DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson could return to form here, and they could, become a good, solid backfield duo for Caleb Williams. And they added Kyle Monangai as well as a depth piece. But the really cool thing here is that balanced offensive unit that's going to be worked around new head coach Ben Johnson. And I think they're going to fully implement new play action heavy system, which is going to be tailored to help Caleb Williams' success. The protection is going to be better, improved weapons. We got to remember that Caleb Williams faced a lot of adversity his rookie season. He had 68 sacks, and some of them was his fault, but some of it wasn't. And that offensive line upgrade is going to be improved. Ben Johnson, like I mentioned, is it going to be better for him? He's currently ranked as a QB 14 on Fantasy Pros, and I think that is going to be where he's going to break out. I think he's going to enter the top 10 this year and become more of what people thought he was going to be when they drafted him as the number 1 rookie pick last year. And, there's optimism there still for me. And I think that with some upgrades and some better utility around him, he's got the upside to be a top 10 quarterback, not maybe top 5, but top 10 for sure. And that's a breakout season in my books.
Yeah, in Superflex leagues, that's a perfect QB2. In redraft leagues, maybe you want to keep him as a backup, play matchups with him, that kind of thing. But he did have a QB 16 finish last year, and I would almost guarantee that he's going to finish higher than that this year. Roma Dunze has a year under his belt, and he's going to emerge a little bit more. We all know what to expect from DJ Moore and the kinds of things he could do. They added Luther Burden, who's kind of like a Swiss Army knife type. They added Colston Loveland to the Cole Kmet tight end room. There are more weapons, but really the work that the Chicago Bears did this year on rebuilding their offensive line it definitely showed that there's a priority in keeping Caleb Williams clean in the pocket, and heavy investment by the Bears. They're going to improve, and Caleb Williams is going to be a part of that. So huge breakout year coming for Caleb Williams. And viewers of the show from last year, during our rookie talk, might remember me not being a huge Caleb Williams guy. And it's not that I'm coming around. It's just we are going to see the emergence of the Caleb Williams that I was prognosticating last year. Maybe some extra runway for him to get to the point where we think that he's at his true talent level. And I think that's coming this year.
Yeah, I do too. And that's what I mentioned. I'm not saying he's going to be prolific, but he's going to definitely fall into the range where you can, confidently play him in some matchups, like you mentioned, in one quarterback leagues as a streamer. And like wheels up for him in super flex leagues, because he'll definitely return you QB2 performances week after week here. And better supporting cast, all of that stuff. And who's got a great supporting cast is us here on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We've got a lot of great people doing awesome things right now. Check out all our great shows on the network. We are flying, and we're about to launch a new channel right away starting June 1st. It is going to be called the Fantasy Sports Advice Network Grindhouse, where we're going to see a lot of, those outside hardcore kind of games, like the guillotine leagues, like some Debbie shows, some deep dive dynasty kind of deep dive stuff. So look forward to that in the near future here, folks. Hopefully launching that June 1st, and stay tuned to other exciting stuff that we're having down the line on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, Biggs.
Including this, there is a best ball app called Drafters. Go to drafters.com. And when you use FSAN as a promo code, you will get matched on your deposits 100% up to $100 for a minimum $20 deposit. Enter FFAN, enter FSAN, go play Drafters, play best ball, and have some fun, win some money.
Yeah, awesome. That's one of our new sponsorships. So let's keep it rolling, everybody. From all of us on the Fantasy Football Advice Network and the Fantasy Forecast. What do you say, Biggs?
We hope you win.
We hope you win, folks. Have a good one. Peace out.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to fantasysportsadvice.com today.
Yeah, do that.